Welcome back, football fans, to another episode of the Prediction Show. Today, once more, is Filter Friday. We're going to be creating two quick filters. The first, leaky, and the second half delight. So without further ado, let's get into it. And before we get going, some big news. We have hit 25,000 subscribers on YouTube. Absolutely incredible. Thank you so much for all the support. And I'm going to give you something as a reward later in this video, so stay tuned for that. And well done to this user for commenting on the last video. You have won a month of OddAlerts Pro. Well done to you. And the same applies for this one. I want to know what your favorite market is as we build these filters. So let's crack on, shall we? The first one we're going to build is called leaky. And it is, well, it does what it says on the tin, to be honest. We are looking at teams that have conceded in 8 out of 10 recent games. So to do that, we go to conceded over 0.5 goals. We then hit last 10. We then look at 80% or 8 out of 10. And then we save for both teams. And we're also just going to qualify that they have actually played 10 games or more. So again, we'll save that for both teams. And yes, we can add more rules to this later, but for now we don't need to, because that is a pretty good qualifying rule, isn't it? So this is going to be a filter for BTTS for over 1.5 goals, for over 2.5 goals, maybe for some away wins and home wins, depending on just how bad some of these teams are. We hit search, and we're going to get some games for Friday, but in this video I am going to focus on Saturday's games. But you can see there is a nice collection of games for Friday, and what I will do is add the digital shortlist to this list for this collection of games in the comments. So if you want to check that out, just jump to the comments after you've watched the rest of the video, of course. So now let's jump to Saturday the 1st. And by the way, if you want an FA Cup video, this video must get 1,000 likes, and I will do an FA Cup preview, because I think there could be some potential upsets in the FA Cup. Not Man City, Plymouth, not that far. Right, let me take a look at some of these games and then get back to you. So it is a wide range of leagues and teams, and at the moment it is ordered by time, by kickoff time, which is the default. Now, another powerful feature of quick filters is the ability to filter on the probability model. And what we're going to do now is sort by the probability model value for BTTS, because that is a market that I do love. Now we're going to just select 0 and 100. So we are just including it in the filter. We're not actually filtering. And then we are going to click the circle, which sorts all the games we've already got here behind the quick filter by this statistic. So right now it's sorting by time. We've got game in Costa Rica coming up soon. We're going to hit search, and now let's see what games we get. So it is sorted now by the BTTS probability model value, as we can see here, 70% for this game in Denmark, and that will be a good one for the alerts you feel. 1.41 implied odds. You can toggle the odds to see if they are available. BTTS not available for the majority of these games at the top. That is to be expected. Let's go back to the stats and scroll down and see if we get some games. We've got a game here in the Bundesliga, Werder Bremen against Wolfsburg. Let's start there. So Werder Bremen against Wolfsburg from the Bundesliga, and just quickly, BTTS probability is what gave us this game. We are now able to sort all the games by that probability model value, and if you want to do that this weekend for a number of rules and metrics, you can with OddAlerts Pro. And to celebrate 25,000 on YouTube, you can use the code YouTube to get 15% off your payment on OddAlerts Pro. And if you do, let me know what you think in the comments, feedback in the Discord as well. Quick filters is just one of many features that can find you high potential games forever, basically. You know, this is going to get you games for the weekend, but what I'm actually trying to do is teach you how you can do it on your own forever. So let's start then with this Bundesliga game Saturday at 2:30. So we'll start with goals, and we can see that they are conceding 1.82 goals per game at home, scoring 1.36 goals per game, which is actually underperforming their XG that they are amassing per game. And what's interesting as well is the goals conceded. So the XG against is actually worse for the away team in this instance, but they've only conceded 15 goals, so they are conceding fewer. So they are conceding chances, but they are not conceding the goals. Could that change in this one? Now we scroll down and we see something interesting here. BTTS has landed in 73% of away games, and they have scored in 91% of away games as well. And actually, we can see that they've scored in 91% of all games played this season. 3 defeats and plenty of goals conceded in the last few games. And actually, it's 4 defeats in a row because they were put out of the Pokal in the week as well. Wolfsburg have had a day less, to prepare, but that was their first defeat. Leipzig away, no shame in that really. They were unbeaten up until that defeat, certainly in the Bundesliga. In fact, the only defeats recently have been to Freiburg, Dortmund, Bayern Munich, and then Leipzig. So that is pretty good going, to be honest. And I mention that because I'm now going to take a look at the odds, which I think are maybe a little bit incorrect. The bookies are finding it tough to call this game, but just the eye test generally on the basic data that we've looked at so far suggests that the away team should be favoured in this one. Just jumping back to the results, we can see that actually at home it is a little bit better for Werder Bremen. The defeats, most of them are away from home. At home, much stronger, much more capable of scoring, and BTTS or goals is what we were looking at with this filter, and that is where my head is at. What about you? Let us all know in the comments. We'll just end our analysis of this game by looking at BTTS, and we can see that the peak is 1.57. We look at the probability model to compare and see if it is a value bet, and we get 1.6, so negative value ever so slightly. I think for a double or treble, still going to be okay though. But what I will do, just in case, is have a look here. BTTS, let me know if it hits evens, just in case there is a slow start. We can also check the timing data if you wanted to, but you can see that there's actually been a decent number of goals scored in both halves by the away team, but they do score the majority of their goals in the second half, certainly away from home, 28 compared to 18 away from home. Now then, we scroll down slightly on this shortlist for Saturday's games based on our quick filters. Remember, you can use the code OddAlerts to get access to this, get a discount in celebration of hitting 25k on YouTube. Thank you as always for your support. If you've not subscribed yet, you know what to do. This game in Scotland is absolutely massive this weekend because St Johnstone are 12th, Dundee are 11th, they occupy the playoff spot, and there is 3 points between them. Same number of games played at this moment in time. Let's just reset this a moment. They've both won 25% of games, and as I say, this is a bit of a 6-pointer, and yeah, let's take a look at the data. So we will look at the last 10 games, and one thing that I noticed whilst doing my research on this game is across the last 10 games, St Johnstone doing a much better job at keeping the ball. They've completed double the number of passes per game compared to Dundee, and both teams have played Celtic and Rangers in that run, so it's a good gauge. I checked that before because if you're looking at passes, if you're looking at possession, especially in these leagues where there are dominant teams and teams that are just clearly better than the rest, you do have to check those fixtures. So we'll start by looking at Dundee's form, and yeah, it isn't great. They are conceding for fun. They have not won a game in 7 attempts. Rangers and Celtic, actually, ironically, funnily enough, they drew those games, lost 6-0 the next time they played them, of course. They've not won a game since the 5th of January, 5 defeats on the bounce, conceding for fun at the moment. And then we look at St Johnstone, and they have at least won recently. They've won 3 out of the last 5 games, which is certainly decent, better than Dundee. And I'm just going to show you now the odds, because the odds for a victory, I'm not suggesting that you place it, maybe it's good as a single, we'll take a look if it's value in a moment, but 4.1 for an away win to me screams value. And I think Dundee at home, yes, this is a rivalry, but what St Johnstone need from this game is not to lose. They cannot lose this game, St Johnstone. They don't want to not have Dundee in touching distance, and at least a draw just takes it out of both of their hands. They can, just not focus on each other. They can then just focus on the next game and hope that the other team loses and they can just beat someone else. Because St Johnstone really, really won't want to lose this game. And if we look at the head-to-head, there's an interesting statistic that sort of leans into double chance or draw no bet. So the last 3 meetings have been away victories, and there's been just 1 home victory between these teams since 2021. And not all games, of course, in the head-to-head should be weighted the same, but it is interesting regardless. Another thing that stands out as we scroll up is that the last 6 meetings have all ended with BTTS landing. So a couple of options, a couple of angles here. Let me know what you're thinking, of course, in the comments. BTTS looks solid. I think Dundee St Johnstone simply need to try and get something from this game. And if they sit back, is that the best approach? I think they will score. We can look at the model here. The model is actually favouring the home victory just over evens. The away victory is still a value bet at 4s, with the model giving us 3.45. BTTS, incidentally, 1.6. So let's go and take a look at the odds for this one and see if it is a value bet. We will jump to the odds in a moment, but first let's take a look at the BTTS percentages here. So across the last 10 games, 8 out of 10 for Dundee, including games against Rangers and Celtic, so they are capable of scoring at home against good opposition, and 7 out of 10 for St Johnstone in the last 10 games. So BTTS, all the double chances where I'm looking at, over 1.5 goals, of course, potentially. And now let's take a look at the odds to see if it's a value bet. So it is a value bet, 1.75, and I think at the peak at the moment, using the odds comparison tool, is 1.8. So 1.6 is the implied odds with the OddAlerts probability model. 1.75 is what we have here. And this is a nice little double that I am going to leave for now, 2.75. Let me know what you think about this one in the comments. And that is the quick filter that we are put together for leaky. So all of these teams that we see here, and there's plenty to go at. I mean, I could carry on, but we need this video to be, under 30 minutes. We've got another rivalry here in Switzerland. We've got a championship game here in Northern Ireland. I also saw, I think it was a League One game up here. Gateshead against Fylde. Let's keep looking down here. We've got another game from the Bundesliga, Heidenheim against Borussia Mönchengladbach. BTTS landing in 65% of their games this season. We've got Newcastle Jets against Perth Glory in the W League in Australia. There is plenty to go at here. And of course, you are in complete control as we come across Wrexham against Bolton. That should be a fantastic game. Wrexham conceding in, at least 8 out of their last 10 games. How times have changed. Bolton 8th, looking to get into the playoffs once more. That's a really interesting game. I might cover that one on Discord, see if there's any value. But for now, we need to crack on with the next section of the video. Feyenoord against NEC. Feyenoord have had a few iffy results recently, going behind. Fantastic for the alerts. Let me just show you a game where they were 1.13. I think it was the previous game. They were 1.13 to win, and the odds went over evens for the victory, and many alerts were set for that game, many automated alerts as well. So yeah, let's crack on with the next segment. So the next segment, we will be creating a quick filter for second half goals. The filter will be called Second Half Delight, because I think it's more memorable if you give it a catchy name like that. But first, I'm going to show you one of the features that you can use with OddAlerts Pro, and of course you can get 15% off for the celebration of us hitting 25k on YouTube. So the suggested alerts page, this is the first time I'm going on it today, because that's the best example that I can show you. First half goals, it's creating a filter for first half goals based on years of research, tweaking, and we can see here there's one game been played already. It was 2-0 at half time. What I'm going to do is click set suggested alert, and that's done. So those first half goal games, I'll get an alert when the odds start to hit 1.6, 7, 8 on these games. We can then look at over 2.5 goals. You can take it or leave it. You can just click on the games, do some analysis, check them out. Maybe you don't want to set the alerts on all of them. That's fine. I'll skip this one. Then we can see strong home teams. Same sort of thing applies. These teams are all expected to win. The stats automatically change for you. So we can see here that we're focusing on PPG. But as we scroll down to over 9.5 corners, we are presented with corner data based on this metric. Over 1.5 goals, same sort of thing. And I am going to set an alert for that one because most of them, I'll be real, most of them, it's 2-0 at half time and the odds never get there. But the ones that do, absolutely incredible value to be had. Strong away teams, yes please. BTTS likely, yes please. So this is another good place to get BTTS games, to be honest. BTTS 80% in all games. They played 15, both of these teams. 81% here, and a little bit lower here, but I imagine the goal stats for both of these teams are very good. That's why it's found its way onto the list. So that is a suggested alerts page, just one of the many features of Pro. And now let's continue with the video. So second half delight, second half goals. Let's have a look, shall we? We are going to again just qualify that teams have played 10 games or more. And we are then going to take a look at some of the stats here. We will not lean on the probability model, and we will keep this one for the EFL, shall we? The EFL and the Bundesliga. And to do this, you go to the competitions tab, Championship, League 1, League 2. You can see the Premier League is not there because this filter is really smart. It will only show you games that are upcoming in the next 5 days, just for convenience. I'm also going to pick the Bundesliga and the 3 Liga because those German leagues are just incredible. And then let's just leave it at that. Japan, not really played that many games yet. So we are going to then take a look at some of the stats. Let me add some and get back to you. So these are the rules that I'm going to go with just at first, and this one is off the cuff. I've not actually searched this yet, so hopefully we get some games. 7 competitions filtered, and we are looking at the 0-0 percentage, and we are saying 22%. So there has been a goal in a vast majority of second halves for both teams in all games played so far. And then the home team, we are qualifying that they've conceded in 60% of second halves this season at home. And the away team, we are qualifying that they have scored in 70% of the last 5 games. So let's hit search. No games for Friday. Next 5 days, we do get some games, and we get a game that we've already covered actually, which is the Werder Bremen Wolfsburg game. And then we also get some games from the German Liga. Now remember, we were only selecting the German leagues and the English league. So I imagine if we remove the competitions, we will get a few more games. But let's see if there's any value or markets available for these select games, and then we will open up the quick filter a little bit more. So bottom of the table clash here between these two teams in Germany. The away team slightly better, -5 goal difference compared to -12. We can take a look at the results quickly to see why I love these leagues in Germany. There's just so many goals. They lost 5-1 at home in the previous game after a 2-2 draw, 2-1 win, 2-1, 2-0. You get the picture. They're not really winning games at the moment. And you can see just straight away, 5-1, only 2-0 at half-time, 1-1, 4-1 final score, 0-0 at half-time, conceded in the second half, 0-0 at half-time, 2-2 in the second half. So the filters don't lie. You know, whatever you put in, you are in complete control. You can tweak them and then check the games, see if you spot something that you want to filter out, and you can, 9 times out of 10, you can do it, you can find it. Away from home, let's have a look at this team's form. A bit better, although they've had some defeats. 3 defeats in the last 4 games. They conceded 5 in the previous game, but they were playing the team that is second. They've had a pretty tricky run, actually, in terms of playing teams much higher in the table. Let's have a look at the head-to-head. 1-0 in the previous game, which came in September. So let's have a look what odds are on offer for this after quickly checking the timing data. Now with the timing data and all the other data on OddAlerts, you can click the last 5, last 6, and it instantly updates. So we're going to take a look at the last 5 games here, and we'll take a look at overall form, and we can see that neither of these teams have won a game at half time, and there has just been 3 goals between them in that 10-game spell, looking at the last 5 for both of these teams. Conceding, yes, they've conceded plenty of goals. Conceding in the second half, Hanover have conceded 2 goals per game. They've conceded 10 second half goals in the last 5 games. They've scored first in none of those games. If we go to last 10 games, we can see it's a little bit better, isn't it? Let's take a look. Yeah, second half, 0-0 percentage, it is 0. We weren't actually filtering for 100%, but this game would have come through regardless if we had. In terms of first half goals as well, the away team has seen a first half goal in 80%, so goals in both halves for this team. Now, this is a market that can directly lead from a filter like this. Most goals to come in the second half. It has occurred in 7 out of the last 10 games for both of these teams. Now, let's take a look what markets are actually on offer. So over 1.5 goals in the second half is 1.83. That would be an interesting one. Half with most goals. Second half, 1.95. Maybe we can create a double for this market for this quick filter. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. And I'm also going to show you now, before we get another game from this quick filter, how you can find games for this specific market in a matter of seconds. So this is the trends page on OddAlerts, accessible for free users and for pro users. Of course, pro users get unrestricted access. And what we're going to do is go to half with most goals second. And now we have a list, an endless list of teams across the next 5 days. You can click and just see the odds and the teams, and then you can click in and see the data. Cheltenham Town there, 13 out of 7. And again, what's great about this market is the odds always evens or just below or just above, as you can see here. So this is a great page, a great way to create shortlists, and that's what trends are. They are shortlists that shouldn't be taken as gospel. You know, if you see a team here, you still need to go and look, because the away team might have not conceded a single goal this season or something. Walsall, another interesting one there, 13 out of 17. They're in great form this season. So this is the trends page. Again, if you want 15% off OddAlerts Pro, use the code YouTube, and we are celebrating 25,000 subscribers on YouTube. That is the reason for that code this weekend. If you do, enjoy it. Now let's get back to second half delight, the quick filter. So we have our first selection. Let's find a partner in crime for it. And to do this, you know, we've got a game from Germany now. Let's go to the competitions and remove the competitions, and let's just see how that impacts the quick filter, shall we? What kind of games do we get back? Quite a few. It seems like we're still looking at the next 5 days, yes, and we're not sorting by anything, are we? No, we're not sorting by anything. So let's sort by the number of goals that the away team has scored. So across the last 5, we should be seeing teams here that have scored 5 out of 5. We see St Mirren against Celtic. Celtic more than capable of scoring in the first half as well, but we will take a quick look at this one. I always think with teams that are playing Celtic as well, it's in their best interest to try and just keep the game at 0-0 for as long as possible, or keep it super tight. And St Mirren actually beat Rangers recently away from home, didn't they? So away from home, Celtic not doing great. This one could be an interesting option for sure. So, but the thing is, the odds are not going to be there. We'll take a quick look. So even in a terrible run of form, Celtic is still heavily expected to win, heavily expected to dominate. So that's why you don't really get value, even though they're in a bit of a patchy run. You should get a little bit better odds, you know. But for them to score in the second half is 1.28. For them to, let's see, most goals in the second half, it is evens. We can take a look again once more at the timing data, and we will just look and see that they do still win a lot of games by half time. So it's a risk with Celtic, because yes, they've been in bad form, but yes, they can just simply turn it on at any time. Another game here, which is being played on Friday as I record this, is Al Nassr. Maybe that's one you want to check out in your own time. Werder Bremen Wolfsburg, I think we're being drawn back to it. It keeps appearing, as does Ajax. We'll try and find one for Saturday though, because it makes sense to do that. Hannover München, the game that we had again, that's where it ranks relative to the other games. Give me a moment and I will take a look at some data and find a partner for the first selection. So I've been lured back into the Werder Bremen game, and I am thinking about this one, and I'll tell you why. They have scored in the second half in 7 of the last 10 recent games at Wolfsburg, and both of these teams played in midweek, which means, and this is a 2:30 kickoff as well, so I think that could potentially lead to a slow start. And we'll check out the markets here. So Wolfsburg to score in the second half, 1.61. If we add that to here, we get 3.15. I quite like that. Wolfsburg to score in the second half. Let me know what you think about this in the comments. Let's just see what it would be for Werder Bremen. It's the same. So it is the same. So BTTS was what, 1.53? So are the bookies expecting all these goals to come in the first half? I don't think so. Let's have a look at the half with most goals, 1.95. Again, you could maybe go with that for a little bit more risk. But there has been first half goals for these teams this season. We can check that in the timing data. Just quickly, we can see here 0-0 percentage is just 10% in the first half for Werder Bremen and 30%. But also the second half goals, there's just goals in both halves, to be honest. But what made me go with this was the fact that they have scored in the second half in 7 of the last 10 games as well. And I just think with those midweek games, there's a bit more potential for the first bit of this game to be slow. So yes, I am going to go with Wolfsburg to score, and that gets this to 3.15. Let me know what you think about this, and let me know what you think about the quick filters here. What would you like to see added to this? I've got some pretty cool features coming soon as it relates to OddAlerts AI and quick filters, and also automated alerts as well. And it's one of the most powerful features on OddAlerts Pro for sure, but it isn't the most powerful. There is obviously more to the site, and of course, I know I've mentioned it a lot on this video, but if you do want to try it out, 15% off with the code YouTube. And that is today's video. Let me know what you've thought. If you want an FA Cup video, 1,000 likes is the demand, and I will be back here tomorrow morning. See you in the next one.